This is Intellijel Multigrain. When you first turn it on, it's easy to play with it because you have slots with samples already filled. For example, this one. So this is a sample. Samples can be 32 seconds long when you record them or when you put them into it. And they can be 16-bit and 48 kilohertz according to the manual. So not 32-bit, but whatever. What is not clear in the beginning is that this is maybe sounding a little bit like Morphogene, but it works really different. It doesn't have a vary speed. It's not a sampler. If you turn down pitch, this time it sounds similar, but only because I have been using a certain combination of rate and size here now. So I'm playing back a grain, and if I turn down rate, I'm playing back only one grain. And I can turn up the size of the grain up to 4 seconds. That's the maximum. You can't play more than 4 seconds in one grain, but you can play several grains after each other. And the scan parameter tells me how much the sample starting point is advancing after re-triggering the grains. So now turning down size and turning up rate. Shows me I'm advancing through my sample with a certain rate. And the samples may overlap, and this overlapping can be designed with a shape. So if I turn scan to 0, I'm not moving through my sample. And if I turn up rate and size, they overlap. And it sounds smooth because I'm using a smooth shape for the overlapping. If I'm using other shapes, it sounds a bit more like a stuttering. But this is still not totally smooth. And in order to make things more smooth, I can use the blur. And blur is kind of giving me a very soft sound then. And I can also adjust the tone. So I'm using a kind of high pass or low pass. And if I have lots of grains with a high size and have turned level up too high and no filtering, it's gonna be too loud. So I'm turning down level quite a lot at the moment, and I'm filtering things. But what's immediately tempting and making fun, even if you don't understand the whole thing, is that you can switch between two settings. I'm going back to my old settings. So this is my setting for A. And now I have made a different setting for B. And I can also turn down scan in the other direction, so it's playing back reversed, and I can use a different pitch and I can use a different blur. So that's what happened at B. And now at A, I'm having a different setting and I can play with both. That's how multigrain is working. And you can see it's different to what Morphagene does, and it's also different to what Clouds does, for example. If you ever used Clouds, you would have wished to be able to store samples. And let's get to the sampling. Sampling, to me, is much harder to understand. But before I come to it, maybe one last thing. When I'm working with my sample, of course, I can also adjust the start point, and then the wrap point determines if the scan goes through all of the sample. So the 32 seconds are possible to be set in here, or only through a certain part. Starting from here. So I can change the start point. I have something similar like a loop length, and I have a speed running through it forward and backward. That's quite similar to what Morphagene is doing. But it sounds a bit different, and control about pitch is different and difficult in other ways, but I can keep the pitch while changing my playback direction. So, but you can see similar effects are possible. And now let's get to the sampling. Multigrain is always listening, but it depends. What is it listening to, through the input or to the output? And now I've set it to resampling, which means if I hold this for a long time, I did record something, and if I press it once again, I'm storing it to my SD card. If I want to load something, I go to the load mode and I can access projects, WAV files, or recordings. If I hit clear and if I hit clear and hit this again, this is empty, and now I'm trying to load again in my recs folder. Go to my very last one and put it in here, and there's a bit of silence there. And this is my last recording, I think. But yeah, it's sometimes difficult. Let's start from the beginning. If I want to hear what's coming into Multigrain, I can access the through button, and something's coming from Stardust. A very nice module. So when I want to record something, I can choose if I record the input or if I record the output. That's called resampling. If I want to access the settings, I need to either enter a simple sample settings page, which can be accessed via Alt and this sampling button. This is now flashing, and here I can turn on resampling on or off and normalize on or off, which is automatic normalizing. I'm now exiting it here and now listening to what is in the input. And I can now hit record. Oh, that was wrong. I hit start for too long. I'm exiting it. The thing is still listening. So if I just want to access what had been recorded, I can press this long and now put it into one of my slots and store it there. Now exiting it means my sample is in here. The alternative method would be just hit record. So it's now red. I'm not hearing it, but I could hear it. Now I have stopped recording. I did not necessarily hear what I was recording. After this, I can decide whether I will put this into a slot or if I just store it to my SD card. If I now hit it, I have saved it for later use and it's in my folder recordings. So let's do something else. Obviously, Stardust can do similar things, but it's more sample based. Now let's record this, and now after recording this, I've now turned down the volume. I can save it to any of my slots, but none of it is blue now. If it would be empty, it would be blue. So I'm clearing it. And now it's blue. So I can now save the recording here. There it is. So if I want to load something, for example, I'm back here and I want to load something here, I can enter the page for loading and I can switch between projects, WAVs and recordings. And here are my recordings, and I can go to previous next until I cannot hit any more next. So this is my last one. This is the one before. These are the ones before. I can also access my folder with WAVs. And they will all be played back with the settings for this slot. Multigrain allows me to use 48 projects. Each project may have up to 48 presets. Each preset stores the 8 sound slots with 2 scene settings each. So that's quite a lot to save. If I load a new sample into a sound slot, this will stay there for now. So to be honest, what this does with the projects and the presets is a bit hard to understand. Some things get stored automatically, some others don't. So for example, I am now in load presets mode and I'm loading one preset. And I'm going into load presets mode again and load another preset. So you can see there are these samples in there. Now I'm clearing one of them. It's gone. So sample number 2 is gone. Now I'm switching projects. This is my project page. And I was in project 1, I'm going to project 2. It's loading. And there are different samples in here now. And now I'm entering project 2, project 1 again. Project 2 is active, it's blinking. Now I'm loading project 1 again. And you can see it still remembers that in the current preset, slot 2 was cleared. But it's not stored in the preset yet. So if I hit load preset and enter another preset, and go back to my first preset, there it is again. My slot 2, which I just deleted, is again there because it was in this preset, and there's just this temporary storage of the current project setting, while the project itself can only be loaded via this project page. But it is not stored in a typical store way. It is rather auto-saved in its last state. So that's some of the little details that one needs to understand about this module. So I guess after working with it for a while, you get used to it and it makes sense, especially since there's no display. You got to be creative how to offer workflows. But of course, if you see it at first and have not yet worked with it, these things cannot be understood without reading the manual or seeing a video. While the first things I did with the module, just playing around with the A and B settings and the knobs, are, in my opinion, more easy to understand. When I'm now turning on through, I hear Nobular Monomatic through multigrain, including the internal blur. And if I'm now hitting record, and put my recording into one of those slots, turn off through, turn down blur, I can hear that the reverb is in my recording. This is not the case if I record internally. Then the effect is after the grain playback and it's not affecting my recording. Let's enter the advanced settings again. So I'm recording something. And now I want to edit the sample and enter the advanced settings by long pressing this. Now, in this mode, when I'm trying to store in one of these slots, the red lights show me that there's something in, but I can override if I want. The blue ones are still free. And now, hitting A, plays sample start, hitting B, plays the end. And now scan would move the start with each hit of the button a little bit. At least that's what the manual says. And now I can hear this is the case. So scan is more for fine tuning. Go a little bit back. I can see a red light here. Okay, let's say this is fine. And I now hit, or let me try the second note. There is the second. I go back a little bit. It's maybe here. So now I've stored it, exiting. No, didn't really work very well. But I cannot edit it now after once writing it. So the destructive editing is only taking place after the recording. So for the end, let's just jam a little bit. Maybe access a preset that is not that easy to be found. Project number 4. Let's see what's stored here. So you can easily imagine that rhythmical things can go very well with this module, especially since they improved syncing with the 1.1 firmware update. I have not yet synced it here with the cable, but you can imagine this sounds very well in a rhythmic way, and all the modulations or sync inputs may affect parameters like rate, size, and pitch in an interesting rhythmical way if I try to do this. But just let's do some freestyle jam. Or maybe let's just program my so sync is enabled on the Alt page via Alt and Sync. So keep in mind that if you want to play samples, you can just start them, but you can also use latch. That means the setting or the grains will be played over and over again as if you would hold the button. And if I now switch to another setting, but want to copy the first one, I hold it and then push the other one. And then it's there. So that should be it for our first introduction to this really interesting granular synthesizer. So what is the verdict on multigrain? Multigrain delivers a new world of possibilities for making live performance or any other performance. It is a really interesting mixture of possibilities to prepare things and to interact live. So you can store lots of samples. You have those 8 slots with 2 scenes, and 2 scenes store parameters for each scene, so you can blend between them. And then you have 48 presets with 8 sound slots each, and they can play simultaneously. and then you have 48 projects that contain 48 presets with 8 slots each. So that's really a lot. So in comparison to the other devices like Morphogene or Bitbox Micro or Stardust or this thing NT, this delivers an interesting mixture of direct accessibility and the option to store and manage files. So apart from this, sound-wise, this is not a sampler and it's not a granular effect. It is a granular synthesizer that plays grains up to 4 seconds. It doesn't play samples, but it allows you to play grains overlapping and after each other. You can manipulate the frequency in which grains are generated and the starting points, the window of the audio file that contains the material, and then the speed in which you move through the audio file and the direction too. You can switch the pitch with up to 2 octaves with a parameter and up to 3 octaves, also including CV, a volt per octave CV management. You have a filter for each grain that is special, and you also have a blur reverb cloud style effect, and you can also record and sample. Everything can be stored very easily. You can't delete things from the card, but your maximum recording time is 32 seconds. It is possible to record the input and the output, but if you choose through, you listen to the input and you can listen to the input through the internal effect and then also record this. So I find this the better option to record, and it may be the number one recording device for your Eurorack system, since you can always, when you hear something interesting, re-catch it and go back to it and capture it. I haven't seen this feature until now in Eurorack devices. I know it's in Roland SP404 MK2, so that is special, but you are limited to 32 seconds. The overall complexity of the device is interesting. It takes a while to understand all the details and the recording functions, while as you can start playing with it without having read the manual too. So there's an interesting degree of complexity for my personal taste, but this is up to you. It is for sure more complex than, for example, Stardust or Morphogene, in my opinion. But yeah, that's a matter of taste, I guess. So that's my conclusion about multigrain. I'd say it's a very special device with unique capabilities.